Our diverging diamond.
Hello, my name's Jared Papp. I'm the engineering supervisor out of our Sioux Falls office. I oversee a lot of our construction staff. This is Mike Noonan. He's our project engineer on this Brandon project going on. Regarding the project, it was let last year, I believe February 27th, and then awarded on March 4th to TNR Construction out of Sioux Falls. They're a concrete paving contractor we do a lot of business with. I believe the award was $41.2 million, which we were fairly happy with that price. I think it was about 0.5% off from engineer's estimate. Last time I looked, there was 18 subcontractors on that job. Some of the major ones was Runge Construction out of Sioux Falls doing the dirt work. Munda Construction out of Minnesota doing the structure work. With Electric doing the signals and lighting. And then TSI done by Harrisburg doing the traffic control. So that I'll let Mike talk on a little bit of the construction that occurred last year and what's coming up this next year.
Like Jared said, my name's Mike. On the progress of the project, we're currently somewhere between 40 and 50% complete with the project. We're just finishing up westbound lanes. What you could probably expect for this next season would be closure of the eastbound lanes, head-to-head on the westbound lanes, and we'll be finishing out the eastbound off-ramp and the other two on-ramps headed east with the extension of the extra half, the other half of our exit bridge, which will probably be continued into June of 26 for a completion date for that, considering we have diamonds and islands to finish out then. With that, I can hand it over to you.
Ryan.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Tisdall. I work for Van Busker Companies. I do commercial real estate, primarily retail and restaurants, but all kinds of commercial. Lifelong Sioux Falls resident, grew up in the country between Sioux Falls and Brandon, and grew up in Brandon. Attended school here all 13 years, went to college in Sioux Falls. Now what should I say?
Yeah, you got some exciting things to share.
Should we do our bios and then we can kind of...
No, you can go ahead and share your piece.
I think we had some questions. Here, let's do our bios and then dig into questions. Is that okay?
That'll be just fine.
Brian Jackson. I'm a development manager for Van Busker Companies. So basically I build residential subdivisions. So I take the bare ground and put streets and everything in. So I'll just do a little quick summary where we're at. Brian's just got so much up to talk about that he didn't want to monopolize the microphone right away. Currently we will have 3 neighborhoods in Brandon that we have going on. Bluffs of Brandon, which hopefully we're down to about a dozen lots left in that one. So we should hopefully be closing that one out here in the next 12 to 18 months. Stone Ridge, or we call it Vistas at Stone Ridge. So we acquired about 45 acres from the previous developer there and up on top of the hill. So just getting started there. We got, I know, one house that's a pre-sold that's under construction. I have a spec that's getting started and currently working on another pre-sold there. So hopefully that maybe look to expand to the west and get some of those nice lots that have an expansive view over the whole Big Sioux River Valley as we work there. And then River Park, which many of you probably drive by every day on Holly. Got the grading done. Hopefully we'll get our plans all finalized here and start some infrastructure construction as soon as the weather allows and work into that. We've been available, and I guess I'll say this is with the sign. So Nielsen Development is under contract to purchase 40 acres from us, and we'll start construction on their product here coming spring. Would that be accurate? Summer? Yeah. And go ahead, stand up. Who's doing it? I work with Sandy and I know Lexi, but is it Amy? Amy will be doing the sales, so reach out to her afterwards and talk to her about what their products are going to be. And then we'll continue on with their, and then the other thing we have going on in the River Park area is we're continuing discussions and planning As far as the installation of the roundabout, that will be right there on the east entrance of where River Park will go. I think I'll hand it over to Chuck.
Hi, I'm Chuck Moss with Chuck Moss Real Estate. I've been involved with the Brandon market for the last 15, 16 years with Sunrise Creek on the east edge of Brandon, east of the golf course. We're just transitioning out of Sunrise Creek. I've got maybe one lot left in there, but we're working on a new development called Chestnut Ridge. And I brokered the deal, but part of the Berkman property was sold to the Brandon Valley School District, so they're opening up a new elementary school. I sold that to them, it's been, 14 years ago now, but it's under construction right now. They're gonna open the new elementary school in the fall of 2026. So it's an 80-acre development we're working with. We got the first 20 acres, first phase built out with streets. We've got build-ready lots. We've got about 14 residential lots. We've got 2 lots we've sold with 2 spec houses being built right now. And we have a multifamily project that's starting in the spring with 162 units starting in the spring. I've also got some 4-plex lots that I'm marketing. So we do have lots available to builders. We have a website, chestnutridgebrandon.com out there that kind of introduces the development. So that's what I'm working on. So if anybody has any questions.
Hi, I'm Tammy Jansma. I'm the city engineer here in Brandon. With the recent development that we've had, there's probably 2 projects that kind of go to the top of the priority list. One of them would be our water treatment plant. We are currently in the 27th month of construction on that. And the construction phase on it is really starting to wind down. So walking through it yesterday, they are, putting some finishing touches on the paint and doing some cleanup. We're waiting on a little bit of equipment, but pretty soon we'll start going into that testing phase. So the project is really just expanding what we have now. So we have sand filters now, and what we'll do is we'll shut down our old sand filters and then turn on the new ones and start operating that way so that we can do some rehab work to our old facility. And then kind of the biggest piece of that is that we're also adding an RO system so that our water can be softened as well. So there'll be a lot of kind of going back and forth and testing and slowly introducing into this system. We'll be sending out a lot of information on what residents can expect and that sort of thing too. The other project with all the development on the east side would be that we're going to start a corridor study for Aspen Boulevard. That really looks at kind of lighting standards and the street widths, curb and gutter, drainage. We'll also take a look at some of those pedestrian access too, so.
Hi, so I'm Patrick, I'm the development director for the city. So I'll fill in some gaps where we lack some representation up here. So Aspen Ridge is the development south of the golf course. If you've driven by lately, what was once a field is not quite a field anymore. Velco is working on their apartments, 145 or 148 apartments. The first building is done. I think they are now leasing, so if you're looking for a place, they went up fast and they're moving. Allen Homes put up a bunch of slab-on-grade villas down there, so those are moving along, as well as some traditional houses. The most recent development down there is there's kind of an L-shaped property south of where the apartments are. Those are going to be a lot of townhomes, a lot of 3, 4 and 5 plexes on individually owned with their own lots with HOA and private streets and all that kind of thing. So those will start probably construction here in the spring, as well as Casey's is going on the corner. Probably they have some other commercial space to look in the market, so that's flying down there. And the other development here in town is obviously right across the road is Brandon 90 Plaza. Jimmy John's is there, Heartland's there. The 2 most recent things were Quick Star #2 and Life Schwab Tires. They're, according to Marwin, talking with him earlier, the developer, what they're looking at right now is a more of an upscale hotel, think kind of a Marriott, or just to the west of where the big lake is. The lake, we're working through it with DANR to add a trail around it and some fishing options. So, public fishing, so we're working on that. And they're also working on a couple restaurants. Every time I talk to them, it sounds like something different, but they're still working through them. So otherwise, a lot of things going on. The development foundation's currently in Roving, is Development Foundation has historically been a developer of industrial properties. The most recent one is the Rovang Industrial Park. If you drive up to Corson and you take a left and you go over the tracks, that's where it is, across from Marvin, go to the north. So that's where engineered trusses and all that stuff is. The Development Foundation, once Lee closes on his lot on Monday out there, we'll have 2 left. Both are on the market. One's a rail lot and one's a non-rail lot, 3.8 acres on the non-rail, and rails 8.3 to 7, somewhere in there. So some opportunities left. Right now, they're looking for additional options of things they can do to benefit the community. We've talked pretty much everything, and I think I have a quorum of board members here, so they could address those questions more directly, but we've talked everything from daycares to, do they want to do commercial redevelopment? Do they want to try to find the next industrial park? To pretty much anything you can imagine. We've talked about it, trying to find the next good thing. Otherwise, my last plug is Brandon is fortunate in that we do have a revolving loan fund to assist businesses. It's not probably as well advertised as it should be, but it is a resource that does exist. Most recently, they lent out about $100,000 to Extremely Clean carpet cleaning. So we try to promote and keep our local businesses in town. I can't speak for those board members. Some of them are here as well. But what they kind of look for is, if you have a good idea for a business and you want to run it like a business, the big thing is they don't want to fund people's hobbies. They want you to, add tax base or jobs or something like that. So if you have a business idea and you're interested in potentially some inventory funding, or obviously they can't fund a $1 million building, but if you need just some basic inventory or something to get started, I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, so I have a few pre-submitted questions. This one came from a community member, and will be directed more toward Ryan and maybe Tammy. But the question was, they have been following the city council packet on the rezone approved for 1001 North Split Rock Boulevard to general business. Any news to share on this business, and what approving the construction plan entails? Is it likely to move forward?
So the property in question, the 1001 Split Rock, right next door, next to the coffee cup, was the warehouse for several years, and then the cannabis grow facility that had the unfortunate fire. And the property owner called me after the fire and said, I'd like to do something good with this property. I'd like to do something good for Brandon. He said, I'm not sure a big metal building is maybe the highest and best use of a hard corner right off of the interstate. So I worked with him to put some thoughts together, and we have a tenant that we're working with that is more QSR in nature, quick serve restaurant in nature. So we rezoned it to general business, again, thinking that heavy industrial probably isn't the highest and best use for that lot. As I've done work in, Teague and Harrisburg, those communities that have all these big metal buildings as you enter their community, and they just, it's very hard for them. They're like, this is the first impression of our community as people are driving in, and we have, whether it's storage units or industrial, light industrial, manufacturing, which are all great uses, but when possible, ideally you'd love for the entrance right off of the interstate in Brandon to be more retail in nature, tailgaters, convenience stores, fast food, that type of stuff. So we went through the process to rezone it, which was successful, and then the owner and his general contractor is Van Busker Construction, which is a different division from what I work for, but part of the same kind of umbrella of companies. And they are working on permitting for a freestanding QSR building that should hopefully break ground mid-year in the spring, I guess. So they've been working with Tammy and the city staff on approvals that I think we're most of the way there at this point. So we're excited to see something new and exciting come into Brandon.
And Tammy, do you want to expand at all on what approving the construction plan entails?
just in general, there is kind of a long process that you have to go through to, submit a site plan and get through all of our zoning codes and make sure that all the design standards kind of meet spec. And so, once they have a site plan, after they've gone through their zoning and whatnot, there's probably 5 to 7 city staff members that review a site plan, and then we kind of all meet, we combine our comments and then give it back to the engineer and the developer. So it does take quite a while. We have to work together. There's always compromise. This site had a little bit of challenges, but nothing more than any other site that we have here in Brandon. So we've been going back and forth. I think we're about 95% there. So we'll get those approved here pretty soon and move forward.
Okay, so this might go back to Ryan again. Okay, so the other question was, is there any news you can share on the Fairway grocery store project and when construction may start?
So Fairway is a client of mine. They purchased land on the far west end of Brandon. I talk very regularly with Fairway. I can share that they are actively working on getting going in Brandon, and they are committed to the community and committed to opening in Brandon. And we are hopeful to have more news and more kind of tangible updates, hopefully within probably the next 60 days or sooner. How's that for a non-answer?
Okay, I do have a few other questions, but I'd like to give those that are here an opportunity to ask questions. So raise your hand if there's someone on the panel that you specifically have a question for, and we'll hand the mic over.
Just me.
Yep.
Barb, ask away.
I was gonna ask you, can you talk about the Risty barn?
Oh, great, yeah, I totally kind of spaced that off. So part of when we bought the former Risty property, which is what we're calling River Park, the new River Park neighborhood off of Holly, Myron and Joan Van Buskirk, who founded our company, wanted to do something for the city of Brandon. They actually started their business here in Brandon, I don't even know when that was, in the late 70s, probably early 70s. Anyway, there's a red barn, there's a home site that's back there. So we've worked with Patrick and Tammy and the Game Fish and Parks and other members of the city to discuss and come up with a possibility of them donating approximately 4 acres of land with the barn that is there. I guess I don't want to speak out of turn, but the last conversation we kind of had with it is that we're close, and that I believe we're leaning towards it becoming or being taken over by the city parks department. Okay, good, I made head nods. So that it can be used for outdoor green space. The city had a structural study of the barn done, so it's not gonna fall down, but you're not gonna house events there. You know, the fact that you can see the outside from the inside was one factor. But it is sturdy inside, so working with the Brandon Historical Society also as far as different things that we can do with that. So obviously it's something that's important to us in the city, but as you've heard with the processes and different things going on, we've probably tabled it a little bit, knowing that it's going to happen, but you know, A through Z need to happen first. So I would see that coming. There's been no change with that. Everybody's been receptive, and Game Fish and Parks, you know, as far as, you know, what can we do to connect to the Big Sioux Rec area along that way, you know, even, you know, Patrick's come up with, like, you know, asking for ideas from the community is, could you do an arts in the park, or could you do a farmer's market? And eventually those type of things could come along down the road as we get a street built down there, and then figure out additional uses with it with the parties that are interested in keeping it running.
All right, Mary Kay has a
Yes. Hi. I just had a question about the Aspen Park development as far as like access, and there was supposed to be like a road coming. I'm a hockey mom, so we're just wondering what's gonna happen down there with the rink and traffic.
So, Barb would be a good resource for this as well. Last it was talked about, Ironwood was the proposed extension into the park. That is now scheduled for a public vote in April, whether to do I guess it's Aspen Park Road, more, the exact language of the vote. Is it Ironwood, is it Aspen Park Road, or is it just to do Ironwood or not?
No, it's one or the other.
Okay, it's the preferred alternative, whether it is the extension of Ironwood, which would involve assessments and other things to the surrounding property owners, or do we pave and build out? Aspen Park Road technically isn't a road, but it's, kind of the driveway through the park. Do we want to build that out and improve it some and add lanes and make it more of a through? So that's kind of up for public vote in April. So that's, you all will determine the direction, I guess.
Okay, and then I had another question. So I live across the street in the golf course. So is there gonna be another exit out of the neighborhood across the way? Or are they just gonna come out onto Aspen?
Yes, just Aspen. There won't be an exit to
To get out, right?
the east,
Okay,
west, or south.
Right, so then along Aspen, you have Country Club and you also have Chestnut. Those
Yeah.
would be the two access
yeah.
locations. So
I live
until,
on Country Club, the other side, so I was just curious if they were just gonna come out on the main road.
they will,
And
yep,
that's what you're talking about.
with the corridor
the
study.
corridor,
Yep, we're gonna
okay.
start that, and then we'll have a
Perfect.
series of public meetings for that too.
Okay,
So-
perfect. Thank you.
I don't even like it. Hey, I don't know who this is to. Are we, somebody said something about a roundabout. Are we getting like 6 of those, did somebody say? Is that happening here?
Okay, maybe let's address the one on Aspen and Split Rock first.
I don't know if we have a lot of
Maybe training?
information. I don't have any information regarding that one. We're more on the construction side. I know the project, the study recently completed.
So the roundabout on Aspen in Split Rock there, right now it's planned for construction in 2028. Currently, you'll see quite a few different vehicles out there serving. I think we have about 3 different companies that have been out there in the last couple of weeks. And so we're very much just in the design phase of that. That is a DOT project, but when they're in town, they very much keep us up to date and that sort of thing. So right now, we're in the design phase. Hopefully, those construction dollars are still there in 2028. Sometimes those do get pushed, but they are working towards replacing that. And then the roundabouts, the 5 or 6 roundabouts on the city side, that would come off of Holly Boulevard. So we just completed that corridor study, and that was a joint project with the city of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County, and then also with the state and federal highway. And so we looked at that corridor all the way from Split Rock and all the way to 229 in Sioux Falls. And so we had multiple public meetings on that. And yes, there's kind of options all along Holly for roundabouts, but that doesn't mean that every intersection is going to have a roundabout. For instance, there's Heritage, we have a light there right now. We would reevaluate that intersection when we needed to replace that light. So there are some right-of-way issues and that sort of thing, so it'd be tight for a 2-lane roundabout, but there are a few other roundabouts that are planned with the new development and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. You're gonna make me go to my other one, my backup one. Okay.
Got one.
Rachel,
Oh, you have one? Okay, yes.
there was a city comprehensive plan or study done a few years ago. Were there any big takeaways from that comprehensive plan?
So there is a planning and development comprehensive plan that is currently in progress. A couple of years ago, we did send out a survey. We had 800 or 900 responses out of 11,000 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's decent. It's pretty good. So I do have the results of that survey. We're slowly working through the comp plan. It takes a little bit when you're a staff of 1 working on it, but it is in progress. What I plan on ramping it up some in the spring, and that is kind of rough layout of it is going to be, of course, your demographics and where you are now. And what I'm looking to add most to it is kind of more of a sustainable development plan. Obviously, things cost to service them. Roads have cost, and sewer has cost, and water has cost, and everything costs. Obviously, oh, well, maybe not obviously, but the things that you add to a city, if we add a new development, you would hope long-term that the development doesn't cost the city more to serve than it generates in property taxes and sales tax. Otherwise, that's a quick way to run out of money and not be able to do anything. So it's more of a look at what does a typical residential property bring into the city in terms of property tax and sales tax? What does a commercial, what does an industrial, where is most of the money generated versus not? Obviously, you can't develop just a city of all commercial or all industrial and no people, because that doesn't. So you have to find the balance somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out where that balance is so we can help shape future neighborhoods to have that balance rather than just all single-family houses, which tend to not generate the most for the city. You need the other things as well to try to find the balance. But that is in progress. I'm hoping to get that going more in the spring. One thing we will need from residents of the community, and you're welcome to email me if this sounds like something you'd want to do, is it's great to have planning and zoning and everyone working on that, but it's also important that the 11,000 plus other residents of the city have some input as well. So I'll probably put together more of a small group of people. I'm hoping to get a person from each kind of neighborhood around the city and some business owners and some developers, and work on more kind of a subcommittee that can recommend language and review language and help us put it together. That way it's just not my vision or planning and zoning's vision or the city council's vision, it's everybody's. So trying to get as much input as we can. So it's in progress, hoping for good things in 2025.
Other questions? Pastor Gordon?
Is there any news on the Maple Street corridor or development over on that part of town?
So that's another joint project with the township, the county, and the city of Sioux Falls. I've worked here for 6 years, and every year we meet as a group and kind of talk about our path forward. We have applied for quite a few federal grants. The latest one is the RISE grant, and we're just not being very successful. Our community is just not diverse enough. We don't have air pollution. Ours is just not rising to the top, and so I don't know that we're ever going to get federal funds for it. I know it is high on the priority for the county, and so this year, instead of spending our monies and our dollars on grant applications, because that's expensive too, we moved forward to 60% design. And so after that, then we can start doing some land acquisition and asking for right-of-way and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be a very long process, and there's really no timeline on it, but as all of us keep working together, hopefully we can get it done.
Okay, I have another one for Ryan here. Are there any new retail deals you are currently working on that you can talk about?
Loaded. So we are actively working on getting Fairway open. Casey's just bought their land. We expect to see them breaking ground sometime this year. I think Casey's is probably going to build that at the same time as the site they bought on Veterans Parkway across the street from Lewis and Sanford and Crooks. I bet we see all three of them get built at the same time. Recently, as everyone knows, Domino's Pizza opened in town. They purchased Tom's strip mall where Scooters is at, so they are the owners of that building now. And we are negotiating with a tenant to take the space in that building right next to Scooters. And I'm actually going to tell you who it is. We are negotiating with Jersey Mike Subs to take that space. But this is where you can all help. We need a local franchisee to own that location. So if anyone in the room knows somebody who would like to own and operate a Jersey Mike Sub in Brandon, South Dakota, have them reach out to me and I can get them connected to the right folks at Jersey Mike's. When we toured the market with Jersey Mike's, the deal maker, everything really aligned. We're walking through the space and the construction guy from Domino's is over there letting us in, and he's going on and on about this is the busiest scooters I've ever seen, and oh my God, they do so much business here, and you just got to get to town. And we walk out, and Holly is just full of cars. It wasn't even at the time of day when school gets out. Like it just everything really aligned. It was a great showing. It was a great impression of Brandon. And being kind of from Brandon myself, I'm giving it the hard sales pitch, but I tout the schools, I tout everything that's great about Brandon, and the disposable income in Brandon, and there's just, obviously, everyone here knows there's a story to tell. And, when I'm walking somebody through Brandon who's from Utah, never stepped foot in Brandon before, and we leave that, that tour, they're very excited, it's rare to see Jersey Mike's press forward on a site before having that franchisee in hand, so it's kind of a testament to how excited they are for the community. So if anyone knows somebody who wants to own and operate a Jersey Mike's subs, there you go, that's the scoop of the day.
How about Chick-fil-A? Let's see that.
You will see Chick-fil-A on the east side of Sioux Falls. They are actively working on that. They've bounced around a couple different sites on the east side. I kind of joke that all this is a timing game. The site they want wasn't quite ready, so then they pivot to a different site. And they're still kind of bouncing around a little, but I bet you'll see them open on the east side of Sioux Falls. I bet within 2 years you'll see them open, which is kind of lightning speed in my world. But I bet 18 to 24 months you'll see them open there. Getting them to a community the size of Brandon is probably a reach at this
I
point.
know, but Brookings, like,
Yeah.
Village, Vermillion.
They have,
I know, they light it.
like when I met with Chick-fil-A in Vegas at the retail show a couple years ago, like the data they have is incredible. Like they know that kids are driving from SDSU to Chick-fil-A. There are 3 to 4 of them in the car. They drive straight there. They go to Chick-fil-A. They drive straight back to Brookings. Like the data they have, and it's all based on your cell phone. Every free app you download, there's code in there that's tracking you. And retailers use that. And it's kind of Big Brother-ish, but it's very helpful for retailers to know where are my customers coming from and how long are they spending here. And when somebody, like for instance, when somebody leaves Costco, what's the #1 retail location they go to? Hy-Vee on Minnesota Avenue. They know where you're coming from, they know where you're going to, and it's helpful for somebody like Chick-fil-A to say, where do we need to go next? The fact that they're not yet in Rapid City, kind of a sign that, not always, but many times you see a retailer or a restaurant, they plant in Sioux Falls, they usually expand within Sioux Falls, they're going to Rapid City, then they're looking at markets like Aberdeen, Brookings, Mitchell, Yankton, those types. Now, what I think Brandon, the new interchange, access is value, and the easier it is to get in and out of your community, and you'll see over time, you'll see more commercial development undoubtedly happen around the interstate, as we're already seeing with Brandon 90 Plaza. You'll continue to see that happen. Because as you look at, if you're on I-90, your next real exit is Veterans Parkway, which for a whole host of reasons is not going to be a big commercial hub, or at least not probably within my lifetime. And then you have North Cliff, and really that's it until you hit Marion Road. So Brandon has, just having the availability of development ground, really there's definitely opportunity there. Which again goes back to, rezoning that Split Rock property on the corner over here. Again, just doing everything the city can do to bring more retail, to bring more sales tax, bring more restaurants.
Rachel, can I just go really quick here?
Yeah.
So the only thing, to go on with what Ryan's saying, and this kind of goes back to like where Domino's chose their location, is understanding that your community is going to have more than one commercial area. Obviously there's the interstate, but not all the local residents like to go out by the interstate where it's busy and do whatever, hit McDonald's or getting pizza or whatever it's going to be. So as we expand to the west or even to the east, or over by where Chuck is, or over by the golf course, the rooftops are going to bring that. So, and that also goes to, where you're looking at with your community zoning. And then like they say, as far as, whether it's density or multifamily and what's gonna bring your tax revenue, whether it be additional property taxes or sales tax revenue, that's what's gonna drive it. So, River Park, for example, when we looked at buying that property, we got a mix of commercial, meaning general business, so hopefully you see some, retailers or office, small office, a work center. We'll have multifamily areas there and kind of combine that in, and then go into, the deal that Nielsen put together with us. I mean, to come in and have that amount of rooftops coming in to be available to the public and then hitting all different price points, I'm imagining, is something that Brandon's gonna need, because you're gonna need that diversity, but that's gonna drive additional growth on the west side. For that, and then as we progress through, and working together, and that's what it all comes down to is, there's a lot of headaches that go into this, and there's a lot of dreams, and sometimes they're squashed, and sometimes they work out. And, but in the end, just ask questions when you see them, but just understand that it all kind of works together. And that, like, if I'm building a neighborhood, or Chuck is building a neighborhood, or you put one out there at Aspen Ridge, is that there's a lot of people putting a lot of money on the line and going, this is going to work for the community, and believe. So that kind of goes back to the development plan. I think a lot of it probably goes back to reading the plan that's been out there, is what does the city foresee as their growth for the years, and then trying to fit something into that.
Brian, since it's in Brandon Valley School District, can you give an update on Mapleton Golf Course?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so not in the community of Brandon. So as many of you know, there's a private golf club, Mapleton Golf Club, being built on the north side of I-90, right about where 229 and I-90 are on the east side there. We have been hired to do the housing development adjacent to the golf club. So that is the Brandon Valley School District with that. So we are in initial phases. We've had a pre-sale with club members. So I have right now about, I'd say, a dozen lots that I'll be getting contracts out on that. We're going to be things up to the course. So you're going to see it's going to be a higher end neighborhood. Think something that, houses backing up like the Willow Run or down by Prairie Green. Prairie Hills is what we're basing our covenants off of for architectural style. And that'll be at the club. And then as we work our way west, we will get into our more traditional covenants of what you'll see at the Bluffs, or what you see in Chestnut Ridge, sorry, or any of those other communities. So we should have a concept plan going to the city of Sioux Falls in the next several weeks. We had to go through and do a future land use amendment, so we had that at the Planning Commission at the beginning of January. Next week, I'll be at the City Council for that hearing, and then I'll file the paperwork for the annexation, hopefully having that done right after the beginning part of April. But we should see grading start this spring, and buildable home sites probably late October-ish or so to get things moving. So they're not letting any grass grow on that property.
I was just going to add, we're excited about Chestnut Ridge. It's going to be fueled by that school that's going to be opening up in 2026. If you look at similar situations like Aspen School over on 6 Mile Road, what that did to that area with Willow Ridge, with what Van Busker did over there, with the Bennis School, what that did to that area, we expect the same with Chestnut Ridge. We talked about access being important right now. There's a gravel road with Chestnut and Redwood. If hypothetically that were to get built out, that's a direct shot, to get to Split Rock and the interstate to come over to that development. Not to take away from Aspen Ridge, it's just an alternative route to get to this development. So we have incentive, to participate if there would be any kind of drive to build out Chestnut and Redwood. So if anybody has any influence in that area, we'd love to see that happen. So.
Tammy, can you address the core, how our, design 1 year?
So the core area is a very large project for the city of Brandon. We have completed almost half of that. So probably 5-6 years ago is when we started that whole process. And when we first started, we really wanted to do the whole thing in 5 phases. Well, with construction costs going up and everything else, we did that first phase all as one project, and that was way too much on the residents, and it was way too much on our budget too. And so then we started splitting it in each phase into 2 phases. So there are still about a $4 million project We've been doing those every other year and then swapping that with the Rushmore area street reconstruction projects. We are taking 1 year off from construction this year just to get kind of caught up on some other projects and get some things done. But this year we'll be designing the next phase for Rushmore area, and then that's the last phase for that area. The core area though, you know, we've been working through our budget because I'm gonna present it to council here pretty soon. But, you know, it's still looking like it's gonna take us probably 15, 20 years to actually get all the way to Split Rock. So it's kind of a long process. I know all the residents there are very antsy to get something going again and moving forward with it, but just know that it just takes a lot of money and a lot of time, and we just don't have all of that at one time with all our other projects going on too.
All right. Well, thank you. Can we give these guys a warm round of applause?